everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Brian Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, the author of the Dreamer Chronicles, and he is flying through the air with the greatest of ease.
Yes.
And he's on fire.
The
while
water's
he's doing
not coming.
Very nice. Today, Robert and I are talking about a superhero sequel, Firefight, the sequel to Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. We did the sequel because we liked the first one so much, and Robert got to break out all his superhero moves.
That's it. I love my superhero moves. I used to dream when I was a kid. I used to think I'd have superpowers. I'd stare at inanimate objects on my school desk for ages, willing them to move. But it never happened. So it had to happen vicariously, which is the wonderful thing about books like this.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that it's interesting because, I write superhero stuff. We've touched upon Meta, which is another superhero series. And I think that this, one of the reasons, aside from Sanderson just being so good, is that it's very much superheroes turned on their head when the very nature of using the superpowers may make them evil. So it's a very kind of Robert Jordan. Maybe he pulled this after thinking about Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, when Rand using the powers may turn him a little evil. Maybe he pulled that idea from there. Who knows? But it really makes it all very interesting.
So we're halfway through a month of sequels, and
would
you like me to take away the brief description of Firefight before we start?
I would love it.
So episode 58, we are reviewing Firefight. It is the sequel to Steelheart, and the third book in the series is not out yet, but there are a lot of people clamoring, and you'll probably find out why during this episode. We reviewed Steelheart. If you haven't heard that review, that was episode 47 on September the 16th, and was originally recommended to us by Lucky Calicar, who's featured a few times as a strong book recommender. So thanks, Lucky, and for getting us into reviewing the sequel effectively by default by recommending such a good first book, because that's the whole idea, isn't it, of a sequel, is that you just really want to read it. So, Firefight. David Charleston returns, this time as the point man in Prof's top Reckoner team, along with a new mission to stop Regalia recruiting more high epics and taking over the world at the expense of every human being. Although David has already avenged his father's death and dispatched Steelheart, it's left him with a dilemma. Is his job with the Reckoners over, or has it only just begun? But it seems he won't have to make that decision, as Prof has made it for him. Join the clan and head out to Babylon Restored with the team to take down the high epic Regalia, or clear out and don't bother the Reckoners again. David, of course, is not a quitter. And as Brian said, Firefight is by Brandon Sanderson. So what did you think, Brian?
I was engaged from the beginning once again. We start with a mission. We're in medias res, just like we are in the beginning of the first one. And David's now part of the team and has been given the moniker Steel Slayer because people now equate him with killing Steelheart, even though Prof and his secrets, his secret of being an epic himself, had a lot to do with it. As a reader, I was engaged throughout. I think that there's some really interesting interplay here with the mystery. Is Firefight evil? Is she good? Is she still a double-crossing spy? Who knows? And then that really builds a lot here. And so it gives us that mystery that really helped us a lot in book one and helps a lot with the series itself. And we find out more about the whole calamity, everything that happened. We find out a lot of secrets, and there are twists and turns, and there's a big cliffhanger, which is why, as you said, people are clamoring for book 3, which I believe comes out in February.
I think it's February, yeah.
February, so which is both. We next episode we're reviewing Golden Sun, and the sequel to that comes out in February as well. So we're going to be waiting for a lot in February.
There's a lot going to drop in February.
Yeah,
I think there's no question. And you said that Sanderson starts in the action. And this is what you got to love about this series, is that you're never bored. And if it's at all possible, Sanderson has upped the pace yet again. And you sort of think, well, the whole Steelheart setting was really unusual. The idea that Chicago had been turned to metal, including people and all the things, football fields, everything was just metal. So where do you go from there? Well, you could go to Manhattan under several stories of water. So
which could happen anyway.
Well, there we go.
It could happen anyways.
Watch out, people. You read it here first with Sanderson. So you get it's a really entirely new setting and a new way that the Epic's powers have to interact with that setting. So I think that's really clever. And as you said, you find out more, but you don't find out everything. So you Calamity is still hanging there as this object in the sky, but you still don't really know what is it and where did it come from and how did these epics get their powers. And you sort of hear something about maybe what happens when the powers take them over, and that they are also conscious that this is somehow corrupting them, and that might be part of Regalia's motivation perhaps. And so, as you say, an interesting interplay there as well. I like the fact that the powers that were revealed in Steelheart get expanded, and so we find out more about Firefight's powers' origin. I won't give a spoiler, but
which is really cool.
It's very cool.
It's a little heady. I feel like not everyone will take it in right away, but I love that. It's very like X-Files comic book.
It is.
So if you're into that, you're good. You're good to go.
Yeah, and it could be seen as a little Deus Ex Machina if it was in the wrong place, and I don't think he's done that. I think it's for me, it was just another another door opening in the story, I felt. So I was okay with it. But as you say, yes, and Sanderson, I think, is noted for his more intellectually based writing. Although this is action, this is an action book through and through. To my mind, there's always something happening. There's always a twist and turn. There's always some kind of new spot of bother that David finds himself in, or somebody else finds himself in. So, it's fast and furious. And as you say, the ending, there's a fantastic last line, and I'm not going to give it away, but lots of loose ends. It's wrapped up enough that you'll be okay with it as a read. It's not an unfinished. It's not an unfinished book, but it's an unfinished series, and you know that there's no doubt about that whatsoever. So, a really great read. And did you think it was better than Steelheart? Did you enjoy it more?
I think I enjoyed it the same. I think, and I know some of the reviews comment on this where we go away from some of our characters that we liked so much in book 1.
True.
But by the end of book 2, you kind of know why that is.
Yes.
I would say. And I think that it's when you're missing a couple of people who you really identified with in book 1, it's tough. But I liked the new characters as well. And I thought that there were reasons for them. And I thought that it all made sense. So as a result, I think that I enjoyed it the same, but I wouldn't say better. I think that there is a lot of fun when you've got the new guy to the organization.
Yes.
And you lose that a little in a sequel because the guy isn't new. But then you have when you have the ratcheting up of the pace and the big twist at the end, you do get some intrigue that maybe wouldn't have been possible in a book 1. So it's really interesting how sequels need to balance this. We no longer have that everyman thing. We can't do that anymore.
No.
So how are we going to heighten the rest of the aspects of the story to the point that it doesn't make people feel like they've been shortchanged. And I think Sanderson does a pretty good job of it here.
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. You know, you definitely start missing some things at the start, but because the pace is fairly on it and you're in the action, you don't really have any choice but to get swept up in the story. So I agree. I didn't think it was necessarily any better. It was kind of more of the same, you know, like you've had, I don't know, a really good Indian curry, you know, and you go back to the same restaurant and you have another really good Indian curry. You know, you're not really expecting anything to change. But as you say, he's done a good job of upping the stakes because, you know, when you're done with avenging your father, where do you go next? And so I think he has quite neatly upped the stakes there. He's neatly introduced some things that, you know, who knows where that's going to take us with Firefight. And interesting, though, that the book is titled this way, and yet one of the characters I missed the most was Megan. And, you know, she actually doesn't feature that much, although she plays a critically important role. So
when you think about it, in book 1, it's called Steelheart, but we don't really see much of Steelheart till the end.
Yeah, I guess not. But then the setting is all Steelheart's creation. So I suppose I felt involved in it. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just thinking that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Why did that not strike me? And maybe it was because in book 1 we got, you know, David's fascination with Megan the whole time, and the twists and turns with her and the revelations. And I was expecting more of that from this book. And look, I think he's just held it back, you know, quite clearly. So, and she's such a ninja. So I just wanted her in it.
Yeah.
But you know,
all the scenes with her were pretty great.
Yeah, exactly. And all the scenes were pretty great. So there's nothing to complain about, really. There's no snobbert involved in this book. It's a great book. And as you say, you know, tricky to continue. We've got the everyman thing back in book 1, and I think where he's done really well in this is kept the feel, the whole vibe of the book. Although it's a different setting and we have a lot of new characters, the vibe is the same kind of thing. And so we have this ongoing saga of goodies versus baddies. Unlike, say, the sequel that we reviewed last, where we've got If I Stay to Where She Went, which was quite a jolt,
totally
and obviously deliberate, but didn't suit me so much as this. So I think if you want more of the same, you know, if it is that Indian curry and you want to go back and you want to indulge, you're going to love it. So if you haven't read it already, for sure, go for it. Should we move into, from a writer's perspective, what we think made this book great?
Yes. We should.
I'll take it away if you like, because I mentioned it
before.
You
can. I thought you were going to transition into it. I'm either way, I'm cool with it.
I mentioned it before, but I thought the transportation of the imagery. So, you know, we went from a metallic setting to a watery setting. And, you know, you wonder if this is his intent, where he's transporting us. And we've talked about this transportation into a different world. And so we get this world that's been created, but not just by one epic, but by 2. And so we've got this watery setting, which is tens of stories deep, you know, skyscraper deep, kind of bizarrely. And yet it's all decorated with these really beautiful fairy lights. It's kind of strange. And I thought that was really nice. I thought the plot points as well in this particular book were, again, really well done. This is a man who knows his straight story arc, plot points and structure. And look, I don't think, if people say that can make a book, I know Stephen King hates his most structured book, the book that he outlined the most, and it's never struck me as I noticed any particular difference between that and any of his other books. So I think, you know, when you use a scaffold and you use it well, there's no reason why it should leap out at you. It's when it's done badly. So it's done really well in here, in my opinion. What did you think from a writer's perspective, Brian? Because you're the man writing superhero books, so...
Yeah. Well, of course, all the fight scenes are top-notch. They were in book 1. They are in book 2. And there's really just this one piece of technology. I forget what it's called now, having read another entire book since then. But his water jet thingy.
Yes.
That... really kind of, it's funny how you've got the tensors in book 1 and you've got this in book 2, and how it's such a key element of how he maneuvers around this city. And without it, I think you lose a lot.
Yes.
And so it was a really great device to give him this device and let him play around with it throughout the city and use it in fight scenes. And it's kind of funny. You think about superhero, you think about sequels, especially superhero sequels. And more often than not, a sequel has multiple villains. And you get a few minor villains, but you get two pretty bad baddies
yes.
throughout the book in Obliteration and in I forget her name now. Regalia. And that's pretty, they're pretty overwhelming odds, especially when you hear almost the Orson Wellesian, this guy destroyed Houston. I hope he's not here. Oh, wait, he's here. And so his reputation precedes him. Yes. And so you have a lot of kind of stakes from the beginning, and it's pretty awesome to see just is it the Sanderson formula? I detect it a little more now having read two of his books, but I don't think it matters that much if you write to a formula, if your formula is awesome.
That's right.
Because then you get people who want to read all your books because they like your formula.
That's right.
So I think I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah. I think it suits the genre as well, especially in the same way that, not young adult, but in the same way that Lee Child's work with Jack Reacher, there's... You know what you're going to get in a Jack Reacher book, but you also know you're going to enjoy it because he does it well. And I actually think Sanderson does that even better because he knows the genre, he knows what people are going to be expecting, and who wouldn't want to be, a young kid zooming around skyscraper tall, watery Manhattan with a jetpack filled by water. I mean,
I know I would like to do that.
Exactly, and we are no longer that age.
Yeah,
me especially. I really like the I just dyed this grey hair. I really like the way that some of the twists were revealed as well, because we get this. We've got the villains are a little bit archetypal. But sometimes the way they announce the plot twists, it just think, that was great. I like that. It's like when Batman is confronting the Joker and Batman thinks he's got the upper hand, and then Joker suddenly reveals that he's standing underneath a net and all the cronies are around or something. So
exactly.
So you get this. I wrote this line down. I didn't lure Jonathan here to kill him, child. Regalia whispered from behind me. I did it because I need a successor. So there's some really good lines that I remembered more from this than I remember from Steelheart. So, so maybe he got into a bit of a run, with character development too in this one. So that was kind of cool. And some
I agree.
And some fun moments, it's a real Princess Bride moment. My name is David Charleston. I kill people with superpowers. You killed my father. Oh no, I did that in book one.
You did that. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that we see a little more of the world by going to another place here, and I think that one thing that Sanderson does well is, okay, we have all these scared people in Chicago, but what about the people in this city? And they're kind of cool with stuff, and they kind of don't have love for the Reckoners because the Reckoners just kind of get people killed. And so it's a very interesting, do we even have the right, are we even doing the right thing here by being who we are and taking on what missions we take on? And there was a little bit of that in book one, because saying Steelheart City is the most well-run. Maybe we shouldn't kill Steelheart. And this one, people are happy in New Babylon, in Babylon Revisited, maybe Restored. Maybe we should, just not save them because they're so happy. And so there's a little more of that. And I thought that was a really interesting thematic point for him to include here.
Yeah, it's a very good point, actually. It's easy to get lost in all the action because it's a swift read, and you might miss that there are some moral things woven in here and there about, does a person with superpowers have the right to do what they do? But equally, if there are people who resent those with superpowers, do they have the right to say, no, this is not the way we should live? And in a way, that's a little mirror of our current world, where we have perhaps due to recent acts of terrorism at the time of this show being recorded anyway, in places that we all know and love from books and movies. Does it turn the world against a certain other cultures of the world when we shouldn't be doing that? It's what we should be doing is more healing and not more resentment. And I think if you look for it, that's in this book. So that's kind of clever to do that in what is really a power-packed, fairly short action novel. So got to hand it to him.
Yeah, for sure. You could just go action, but
exactly.
You went further.
But he also weaved in these other things. Like I like the way he uses euphemisms for swearing. Like sort of, you're a schlonz. What a schlonz! It's just such a good word. And Sparks, how did he do that? So
yeah.
I think
it's a good way. I feel like a lot of authors get into the issue where they say, how much profanity should I use in this book? And if you just replace the profanity with some other slang term that exists in your universe,
job's done.
Then you're set.
All of a sudden you can exist in YA land again without parents getting upset. So
exactly.
Because I think, what did we review? Eleanor and Park, I think, has quite a bit of swearing in it. And, Trudy and I were saying that, it puts off some people. It's a firmly YA book, but it can put them off. And this one's totally clean. And look, my daughter came running into me when she finished it. She said, Daddy, when's the next one out? So, she's really keen. And that's
awesome.
An almost 13-year-old girl. And you think reading this book, maybe it's a boy's story, but it's if kids are at the age where they like action and adventure and superpowers and cool settings, it doesn't matter. I think he writes well. It's not as much of a boy's story as, say, Grasshopper Jungle.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's not. It's that was very much a boy. Like Grasshopper Jungle was from the perspective of a boy being very much a boy.
Yeah, yeah.
In this book, David is more neutral.
Yeah.
Like he, could you have gender flipped and it be about the same story? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's not so crazy as Grasshopper Jungle in that.
And you've got strong female characters in there as well who are kind of snarky enough that they slap David and put him in his place. You're just a boy. So I think there's some good aspects there that appeal to the more female leaning side of the younger audience. So takeaways, they're famous.
Takeaways, you want to go first or second?
Ooh, I'm going to go first with my prediction.
Okay.
My prediction is that in book 3, David will become a high epic. But
okay,
I don't know.
We'll see.
It's a bold move. It's a bit cool.
Yeah. Well, I'll predict. We'll instead of takeaways, we'll just do predictions. What do you say?
Go
on. I would say that not all the original Reckoners from book 1 will survive by the end of the series.
Woohoo.
In fact, probably going to be cut in about half. So.
It's going to be some destruction. It's meant to be a trilogy, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, it says it's the final one. So. Although there is a novella in between books 1 and 2.
Yes, I only saw that yesterday when I was browsing around, so that's going to be
Mitosis.
Yeah, I have to go and read that.
Yeah, me too.
Not a prediction, but one of my other takeaways is that I really like some of the one-liners in the book. He's really good at snapping one-liners. How about this? This time when she pointed it at me, referring to a gun, this time when she'd pointed it at me, she'd flick the safety on. If that wasn't true love, I don't know what was. It's just,
I know.
He's definitely got his tongue in cheek when he's written this book. There's no question about that. It's partly comic, There's no question.
Yeah.
So, do you want to prompt? Are you prompting?
You can prompt away.
I can prompt.
You can prompt.
I'm doing it. Okay.
Go for it.
All right, people. You have just vanquished your biggest enemy. And now what? But your mentor drops a bombshell. Your job has only just begun. What is your new mission? And why are the stakes now so high?
So my biggest enemy is Snobbert. And so I don't know. I don't know what I'd do. I'm excited to write this prompt.
Cool.
You can answer the prompt or respond to this here review at thesplitbookreviews.com. You can tweet at us at thesplitbook. You can email us at podcast@thesplitbookreviews.com. You can also post an iTunes review over on iTunes for The Split. And we would love all of those things. All of them.
Multiply.
We would dance.
Yeah, done over and over.
Singing, Snobbert would cry.
Exactly. Send in your reviews, and both Brian and I will dance while I simultaneously cry as Snobbert on video.
Yes. So next week we are going to do the final sequel of Sequel Month, and that is Golden Sun, the sequel to Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I finished it about 2 hours ago.
He's fresh.
And so I'm very fresh.
He's
very
fresh.
fresh.
He's going to have to wait a week before he'll be stale by the time we
Exactly. So sad.
Oh, good.
Well, this has been another episode of The Split. I'm Brian Cohen. That's Robert Scanlon. Come back next week for another two-perspective review.
And be very, very careful. If you happen to see any openings to parallel universes, just watch out. You may be experiencing a superpower. Just saying.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.